Hi, welcome to Coda Guitar's starter lesson on fretting chords. Firstly, it's worthwhile making sure that you viewed the lessons on posture, fretting riffs, picking riffs and strumming chords, because there's some information in all of those that's going to be useful for this lesson. Now basically, we're just going to be looking at fretting open chords, which are often put together in sequences, which are then used in different sections of songs, which could sound a little bit like this. So basically, open chords are just different shapes that you hold down on the fretboard of the guitar, often using 3 fingers and using different strings and different frets depending on the chord. And these are generally played around the first 3 frets, so it might sound a little bit like this. So they're called open chords because they contain open strings within the shape, because you strum through the fretted strings and also some open strings as well. Now we're just going to be starting off looking at 1-fingered chords to start with, just to make sure you can play them properly, and we're going to be building up to 3-fingered chords. So fretting chords is pretty similar to what was covered in the fretting riffs technique exercise lesson. Basically we're going to want to have our fretting hand in the same position, so just behind fret 1, roughly 2/3 of the way up the back of the neck, and we want to be using our wrist and our elbow to curl round, and importantly use the tips of a finger or fingers to push down the strings. Okay, now it's a little bit harder because you need to be strumming through more than one string. So basically, if you're a little bit too low, if you're a little bit too relaxed with your first finger, you might catch the string underneath. So what I'm doing here, I'm pushing down string 2 at fret 1 with my first finger, but I was a little bit too flat there, a little bit too relaxed, and so I could hear string 2 but I couldn't hear string 1. So I just need to lift my finger up a little bit more, so I'm using my elbow there alongside my finger, and I'm no longer catching the string with the underneath of my first finger. So if we just go to the close-up, so the joins in each finger, these 2 closest to the nail just here, these are quite important, because if we bend these round reasonably tightly, then it gives us almost like a 90-degree angle there of our finger in relation to the strings and the fretboard, and so this quite high position means it's much less likely that you catch the strings underneath where you're fretting. And finally, when you are trying chords to start with, it's very important, I think it's really useful if you try to pluck through the individual strings, because say, okay, for this chord here I need to strum through the top 3 strings like this. Now that might sound okay, but then if I pick through the individual strings, I can actually hear that I'm not catching, I'm catching a string, so I can't hear them all. So basically, if I pick through the strings first, then I know it's fine to strum through them afterwards. So, first chord playing exercise, we're just going to be using 1-fingered chords. Dead straightforward, dead simple. It's not the most inspiring chord progression, but it's just to get you started, just to make sure that you're fretting the chords in the correct way, basically. So the first one is called C, and what we're doing is we're using a first finger and we're pushing down string 2, fret 1 using finger 1, and it should sound like this. So I'm only strumming through the top 3 strings for all of these chords, just strings 3, 2 and 1, which are the thinnest ones. And as I explained in the previous chapter, if you try and pick through the strings first, just to make sure the chords sound okay. And also it's probably a good idea if you just pause this chapter after I've demonstrated each chord, and you try it yourself just to make sure it sounds okay, basically. So there's a C. The next one is a G, which is using your third finger, finger 3, pushing down fret 3 on your first string, string 1, and that should sound like this. And then the third chord is called a G7, and we're going to push down fret 1 with finger 1 on string 1, and it should sound like this. Okay, so once you've got the chords, the next thing that you need to think about is changing smoothly between them. So what we want to try and do is make sure we don't move a thumb, and from C with finger 1 to G with finger 3, I'm just reaching across a little bit without actually moving my hand position. So what we're going to do is we're going to play one strum for each chord. I'm going to keep the counting going, and we're just going to basically play one strum in every 4 counts, or every beat, which sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you try that with me after 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so one more. This time we're going to play one strum for every beat in the bar. So we're going to play each chord 4 times. So we're going through from C to G to G7 and back to C again. So we're just going a little bit more slowly this time. So again, after 4, it'd be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3,